Center, Mark McVicker here along with Brody Broshears. We are set for the showdown between rivals Kentucky Wesleyan and the University of Southern Indiana. Brody Broshears is back here at his senior night at Kentucky Wesleyan, so they are being honored before the game. And USI comes in with a record of 21 wins, 2 losses, and they are ranked again 6th in the country, 2nd in the Midwest region. Kentucky Wesleyan comes in struggling. They have lost 5 out of their last 7 games, and they come in with a record of 15 wins and 8 losses. So they say throw the records out in this one, and I think it is the case. Still a major rivalry.
Senior night, you've got desperation, I think, in Kentucky Wesleyan's part, and for the USI Eagles, it's about continuing to move forward. A business trip of sorts, get this road win, take care of business in this big rivalry, and continue to move forward.
And for USI, it is part of this big, long road trip in which they have had 5 straight on the road. First 3, though, Eagles go out, and they have won each game by at least 20 points. Remarkable.
They've looked dominant. They're getting great play, good balance. C.J. Trotter has been absolutely amazing on the road this year, averaging about 19.3 points per game here in this road trip. A lot of balance. Toomba continues to be solid for them as well, and the Eagles look to continue to be solid in this road trip, gear up for that road matchup against Bellarmine.
And that could be for leadership in the GLVC East, could be for top seed in the region, top seed in the GLVC tournament. A lot at stake as we enter the final 3 games of this regular season for this USI basketball team. And Randall, when we see what the USI has done on the road, and you've had a chance to visit Coach Watson, there is something else that we do have to address here, and just to your left is the USI locker room. And when we talked to Coach Watson last week, he talked about the emotion. It was in that locker room that Jerron Lewis died, actually right here on the floor. And it was in that locker room in which his teammates, his friends got that news. And he did not know how his players would react.
That's a very good point. He told us last week, Mark, when we had a chance to talk to him, that it would be very tough, he felt like, for the first 5 to 10 minutes that they were in the locker room. He actually said that they were going to try to get a waiver from the NCAA, come down a little bit early just to get his team back here in the Sports Center, the tragic night where Jerron passed away, just to kind of get his team back into this area and kind of get all those motions out of the way early.
It'll be interesting to see. In fact, I had a chance to just visit with Coach Watson, and he does have his game face on, as he normally does, but you never know in this situation on how players are going to react. One thing we do know, that this Eagle team has performed very, very well on the road. They are unbeaten away from the pack so far this year.
Yeah, and they're going to be really tested tonight because, you know, we kind of joked around about it. It's a cliche. It's actually overused. But when these two teams get together, you can throw the records out of the books because this is the best rivalry in all of Division II basketball. That 29-point win that USI had just a few weeks ago at the pack, the 3rd largest in this series history, the 3rd largest win for USI in this series history. I guarantee you that that Kentucky Wesleyan has talked about that in the last 4 weeks or so since they last played.
We'll try to explain that as it goes. What makes it simple for USI anyway is you keep on winning, you're going to get favorable matchups, and the bottom line, the ultimate goal, of course, is to make the NCAA tournament and the Elite Eight. And what is key for USI, as we said before, is to keep on winning. They're ranked 6th in the country and number 2 in the region behind Bellarmine, which is ranked number 2 in the country. And, of course, Bellarmine beat USI back in December. Boy, that seems an eternity ago. But the rematch is Thursday. And as Randall mentioned, you can't look too much ahead to that matchup on Thursday because you got a big rivalry game. One good thing that Coach Rodney Watson has done, Brody, is been able to focus his team on whatever task is ahead. They never look too far ahead, don't look behind. They just kind of go about their business as to what they need to do for that particular game.
And that's clearly been a strength. You know, I think tonight's game, all the emotions surrounding tonight's game, USI's return from you know, last year's tragedy, and then you've got Kentucky Wesleyan playing here at senior night. USI is going to have to weather this initial emotional storm, I think, the first 4 or 5 minutes of this game. And, you know, what's great from my perspective with Rodney Watson coach teams is you just don't see him get out coached. And I think he brings a real calming presence to this basketball team, and I think he'll be able to hopefully weather that initial emotional storm. And but, you know, he talked with you earlier today, and he said, we just don't know what's going to happen. We can prepare for this, but there were 6 guys who were here last year who witnessed, you know, seeing Jerron collapse and what transpired from there, his tragic death. And so it'll be interesting to see how USI comes out tonight.
Yeah, they've done an awful lot, and the coaching staff, and I know the players themselves, you know, in terms of the ceremony and bringing back the memories, in terms of the public displays of it, you know, they kind of want that stuff to end. You know, I mean, it has been nice for everybody to participate on that. I mean, they grieve in their own way, and you talk to people like Kevin Gant, he says, you know, I think about him every day. They do little things like they meet at the number 40, which is on the floor at the Pack, but this is a different experience because none of those players have been back here to the Sports Center since that day last January when Jerron Lewis passed away.
Yeah, and Coach Watson said this is going to be emotional for me. I don't know how I'm going to respond to this too. And I think that that's just being real honest about the situation, and that's the best way to approach I think any kind of adversity that you're going to face, any kind of emotion that you're going to have to deal with related to last year's death of Jerron. And let's just hope the Eagles come out strong tonight and honor him in the way that he'd want the Eagles to play, which is hard and with a lot of spirit and enthusiasm.
Todd Lee, the head coach of Kentucky Wesleyan, with his own difficulties in getting his team to play. They are only 8-8 in GLVC play, and they have a record of 15-8 overall. At one point, Kentucky Wesleyan was ranked number 7 in the country, and since then they have fallen on hard times. But this is a team with a lot of talent, a lot of ability. They have guys who can certainly score, and this is going to be a fun matchup. The problem for the Panthers has been stopping people, and we'll see how all that turns out, but we do know it will be an emotional effort tonight. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, the starting lineups and all the play-by-play. The rivalry resumes. USI and Kentucky Wesleyan. It's next on the News 25 Sports Channel. The players are all converging, and once again, Mark McVicker here along with Brody Broshears, and there was a moment of silence honoring Jerron Lewis. They didn't know how that would react, but it was on this floor in which he did pass away. Randall Parmalee once again joining us. He'll be on the sidelines for tonight's game. Randall?
Mark, you mentioned the moment of silence for Jerron Lewis. I'm right down here, right beside the USI bench, and had a really good vantage point of just trying to read the emotion on the players' faces. And you could tell every player on the team really an emotional look on their face. Looked at Rodney Watson. He looked like he was almost in tears. It'll be really interesting to see how USI bottles up that emotion and how they come out and play for the first 5 minutes of the game tonight.
Well, we'll see. You know, it's one of those things nobody can predict. And Brody, you know, Randall was right there, and they said that they didn't want to have too many more of those public kind of displays, but I think appropriate here. Let's go ahead and give you the starting lineups. First of all, for USI, you saw Kevin Gant come out. He's one of the guards, 5'8" senior out of Indianapolis, 9 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists per game. Brandon Hogg, 6'1" junior out of Edwardsville, Illinois, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists per game. C.J. Trotter is the leading scorer on the Eagles. He's averaging 15 points, 3 rebounds. He's a 6'3" senior out of Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Nick Duncan, 6'7" senior out of Bar Reeve High School, 6 points, 3 rebounds per game. And in the middle, you just saw him come in, Mohamed Tumba, 6'7", out of Kinshasa, Congo. 13.5 points, leads the conference in rebounds at 8.5 rebounds per game. And now the Kentucky Wesleyan Panthers, they are coached by Todd Lee. In his 6th season, he is 107-63. Rodney Watson, believe it or not, in his 2nd year, is 45-5. Here are the starting lineups for the Panthers. At the guard position, Quan Waller, 5'11", senior, Rockford, Illinois, 13.5 points, 4 rebounds per game. Cardell McFarland, out of Bosse High School, 6' junior, and he is averaging 17 points, 2.5 rebounds, 4 assists per game. Up front, Anthony Young, 6'7", junior out of Indianapolis. He's averaging 19 points and 8.3 rebounds per game. Chris Williams, 6'5", senior out of Versailles, Kentucky, 9 points, 5 rebounds per game. And Jay Ivey's going to get the start, 6'7", senior out of Owensboro Catholic High School, 5.5 points per ball game.